And good afternoon, Monday afternoon. Welcome. Another session of the Deal Doctor live stream. Hope you had a great weekend, and we have some topics to talk today about. Again, as always, if you have questions as you're watching it, please post them in the comment section so that we can address them. Couple of things that have gone on this last week before I get to the topic of get busy. That's today's topic. I want to share a few things. Number one, there is confusion out there, as many of you know, about escalation clauses and how an escalation clause works when there is a competing escalation clause. In other words, you may have 2 or 3 or 4 offers, all of which have escalation clauses. Let's pretend, for example, that they all start out at $150,000 and they all go up by, let's say, $1,000 over the last one. Frankly, I don't think that $1,000 would make a difference to a buyer or to a seller if there was one that had outstanding credit, but let's say for the moment there is. And all of the offers escalate up to a maximum of, let's say, for example, $180,000. Well, I don't know if you remember this, but when I was a kid playing sandlot baseball, we used to take a bat and we'd grab the bat and the other team would grab the bat and we would go up the bat until we got to the top of the bat handle, and whoever got the top of the bat handle won first at bats. That's how an escalation clause works when there are multiple escalation clauses. Some agents believe that you can only escalate once, but that's not true. According to Gail Anderson, we can escalate like the baseball bat, up, pushing the other, ratcheting it up until we reach the maximum escalation cap of any given offer. Now, when you get that high, when you get up that far, I'd be looking really, really hard at the terms of the offers. Are they cash? Are they heavy down payments? Because there's a possibility when you're up that high that you're not going to get an appraisal that appraises for the sales price, which brings into consideration the idea of an appraisal guarantee, where a buyer guarantees that they will bring to closing an additional $3,000 or $5,000 or $10,000, whatever they want. If the house does not, if the property does not appraise for the sales price to make up the difference. And I know, based on the comments over the weekend about agents missing out on multiple offers. I mean, some of you said, a dozen or 15 and 20, and all I can say is keep trying. Put those credit scores out to the sellers. Give the credit scores of your buyers to the sellers if they're good. Consider doing an appraisal guarantee. Write the very best, very cleanest offer you can, and take your very best shot, because this is a tough market, and the ones that I'm seeing winning are those which have an appraisal guarantee. Let me explain very quickly too. I know that some agents feel as though they don't want their buyers paying too much for a property. Notice the air quotes, too much. Well, what is too much? Too much is that what the appraiser says is too much? If you have a $190,000 listed house and 10 buyers are willing to pay $200,000 for it, then it would seem that the right price is $200,000. The problem is that agents sometimes look at that appraiser's value as the last word. There's a couple of problems with that. First of all, The appraiser's perception is one person's opinion, number one, and number two, it's a snapshot in time. There may be sales which they could not include, which are too old and have fallen off the end and they can't use them anymore, or there may be a sale that occurs tomorrow which could bump that up to easily to $200,000. The difficulty with appraisals is that comparable sales are a lagging indicator of value. The actual sales prices written into contracts are a leading indicator of sales. So as we are in an upwardly growing market, an increasing value market, appraisals are going to historically be low because the comps have not caught up with the values yet. And it will continue to be that way until we plateau and the values kind of go flat for a period of time. So don't put so much emphasis on an appraisal that you think that your buyer is paying too much for a property when all of the other offers are above the asking price, and ultimately it's up to your buyer whether or not they want to offer more than the asking price. So again, those are ways of winning out there. We ran into a couple of things about negotiating commission on the purchase agreement, and it is flat out a violation of the MLS rules for any agent to negotiate the commission on the purchase agreement or an addendum to the purchase agreement. And I mention the addendum with a lot of emphasis because a lot of agents think that if they put that negotiation of commission on a separate piece of paper that it's not part of the purchase agreement. And that's simply not true. In fact, it becomes an integral part of the purchase agreement, which means it's negotiating commission on the purchase agreement. There are two ways that you can negotiate commission in a situation where both the listing agent and the selling agent want to do that in order to put a sale together, and that is number one, on company letterhead, and it could be either company's letterhead, but it has to spell out what the commission is, that all parties are in agreement, and both brokers have to sign that letter of commission change. Okay, it's not on an addendum, but it is on a piece of letterhead from either company, but it is signed by both brokers, not the agents. But the agents can sign it too if they want, but as long as the brokers are there. Now, the other way to do it is to actually change the listing contract amendment, the same form that you would use to change a purchase price, you can use to change the commission. Again, if all parties agree that it's clearly spelled out that on this one particular transaction, the commission will be such and such, and it will be split accordingly between the brokers, and again, both brokers sign it, then you've got a legitimate document that verifies that you have negotiated the commission, but you've avoided doing it on the purchase agreement. So, I'm crossing things off. Yay! I love crossing things. Okay. I don't know how many of you have noticed, but we have Facebook Classroom, which has been added. It's been created by our management team, and it's a great place to learn new stuff. There's going to be all kinds of videos there, the Thoughts with Greg, Deal Doctor live streams. We're going to have things posted there. Coming up very soon, Paul is going to do a segment on checklists, Um, and so, what do you do when you get a buy sell? What do you do when you're preparing for a listing contract? Is there a checklist you can go and say, okay, I've got the listing contract, I've got the designated agency addendum, I've got the my CMA, I've got my marketing plan, I got some brochures I made up, I've got the seller's disclosure form, the affiliated business arrangement, I've got all the forms I need, and I've got my CMA. Is there some checklist that I can create to work with sellers, to work with buyers, and to work with transactions? Those are all things that we're creating and that are going to be available on Facebook Classroom. So if you haven't joined the classroom yet, type in Facebook Classroom, and if you're a 5-star agent, you will be allowed to join. So it's really cool. Okay, that's it. It's really cool. It's all you need to know. Big question has come up lately. Do I need a buyer agency contract to work with a buyer? Technically, legally, no. When you are working with a buyer, and if you don't want to have the buyer agency contract signed, you don't have to have them sign it. We would much rather that you did, because it protects your commission and it stipulates how you're going to be paid and how much you're going to be paid. So we encourage agents to have the buyer agency contract signed, but we also encourage agents to do that. I missed the little dust thing. Oh well. We encourage agents to do that separate and apart from writing an offer. I know a lot of agents get that buyer agency contract signed when they sit down to write an offer on a house. I've been in this business long enough to know that happens probably most of the time. I'll explain to you that if you ever get called before the court, it's going to be really hard to get a judge to support that buyer agency contract if it was signed within a bunch of papers that the buyer thought that they were signing only as it regards a particular offer. The best way to have it done is to have it signed and dated when you start to go show them houses, and you explain, if we work together, then I expect to be paid. It's what I do. It's no different than if I was working down at the tool and die shop and I put in my 40 hours and asked for a paycheck. It's no different. If I'm going to go to work for you, I expect to be paid, and this document verifies exactly how I'm going to be paid, what I'm going to be paid for, and how much. So we encourage you to sign that, get a buyer's agency contract in place prior to writing an offer. But if you're an agent who doesn't use buyer's agency contracts, then understand that you're putting yourself at risk to not get paid if they go and knock on a for sale by owner's door, or if they happen to wander into an open house and write an offer with the listing agent. You have absolutely no protection whatsoever to get a commission. So buyer's agency contracts are good, but we also recognize that some agents don't use them. They work according to what's called implied agency. In other words, they say, don't worry, I got your back. I'm your person. I'm going to watch out for you. Okay? So if you're one of those agents, understand that there's a risk that you may not end up getting paid a commission at all if they knock on a FSBO or a builder's new construction spec house or they walk into a listing and write with the listing agent. We're still having issues with EMDs. I don't know that will ever go away completely, but bear in mind that if you are the buyer's agent and you receive or you write an offer, have a fully executed purchase agreement, and an earnest money deposit is not delivered to you as stipulated in the contract. Now, GRAR has a new clause which is 72 hours after the fully executed buy-sell. Other contracts have different ones. Whatever those terms are, if you've not received that earnest deposit, if that has not been delivered to you by the buyer in accordance with the contract, you are required under the Code of Ethics to disclose that. Actually, it's under the Michigan Occupational Code under being the proprietor of an escrow agreement. So if you are in that situation, you have to disclose to the listing agent that you've not had the EMD delivered to you. It's not an option. It's not a situation where we're keeping the buyer's confidence and abiding by our agency and fiduciary duties. We have a duty to share that information with the listing agent if we do not have an EMD in hand according to the purchase agreement. Question came up about trusts. How do you deal with trusts? Trusts are, in and of themselves, their own entity. They are, for all intents and purposes, I'll use a comparison of a corporation. Within a corporation, there are articles of incorporation. Within those articles of incorporation, it stipulates who has the right to do what. Who can, within that corporation, who can buy and sell property, who can sell stock, and all of those things that you do within a business. A trust is no different. The certificate of trust or existence, certificate of trust existence, will stipulate exactly what the terms are for that trust, and whether there is one person or two people's signatures required, and they are the beneficiaries or the trustees of the trust, and they are the ones whose signatures are required in order to list a property, buy a property, close on a property, and so on. So the very first thing you need to know, if you're going to be involved in a trust sale, that you have to get that certificate of trust and read it so that you understand who the legitimate parties are who have the right to sign on behalf of that trust. Hope that helps. Okay. One other thing we've run into recently is agents in this market. Some of them agents are doing great. They're off the charts. They're doing wonderful. Other agents are struggling. And I've taken a little bit of time to look at the agents who are doing great and have conversations with the agents who are struggling a bit, trying to kickstart their business. And what I will tell you is this: it is absolutely consistent. There is a consistent pattern between the two different patterns. One, the agents who are doing well are making calls. They're contacting their database, they're contacting their sphere of influence and family and friends, and just reminding them that they're in the business of real estate. They might ask them a question: who do you know who might be thinking about selling real estate in the near future? It's as simple as that. That's an open-ended question. It's much more effective than saying, do you know anybody who might be thinking about selling real estate? Well, human nature says that they're going to say no to you. Nah, I can't think of anybody. Yeah, but if I do, I'll keep you in mind. I'll be sure to pass your name along. They won't. But if you say to them, who do you know who might be thinking about selling real estate? It causes them to pause and actually think of something. And sometimes they'll come up with the same answer. But I tried this on a friend of mine, and we were driving down the road. Asked her, does she know anybody think about selling real estate? And her answer was no. And had dinner, went to a movie, came back, same highway, same car, same girl, same woman. And I said, who do you know who might be thinking about selling real estate? And she goes, my mom's going through divorce. And I thought, well, isn't that proof? It's not always what you ask, but how you ask it. So when you're having a conversation with your friends or your family or people that you frequent at the local pub, your dry cleaner, your auto mechanic, I always go to the same place to change the oil in my car so that they know who I am, and I always make sure that I give them a business card and say, hey, thanks for you doing a great job. I appreciate the work you did on my car. And oh, by the way, just in case, here's a business card in case you know anybody. Yeah, thanks. I don't care if they throw it away 5 minutes later, but I will tell you that after 10 or 15 times of that, they know who I am. So try to create a circle and a consistent group of people that you are contacting on a regular basis and making the connection that you sell real estate. Wear logo wear. It's amazing. I wear my 5-star logo stuff, and it's amazing that people will say to me, oh, are you in real estate? No, I just wear this because I think it's cute. It's unbelievable how many people, if you're wearing a 5-star logo on your shirt, will actually ask you whether or not you're in real estate. Now, that's a great opportunity to say, yeah, oh, and by the way, if you happen to know anybody, here's my card. The difference between the people who are rocking and rolling today and the ones who are struggling a bit tends to be the difference between the ones who are constantly making connections with people, their sphere of influence in particular, friends, family, neighbors, but they're trying to expand that sphere of influence as well. They're trying to say, how do I push that? Who do I not have on there that I should? Who do I do business with? For example, my dentist, my doctor, the pharmacist, the oil change person, the guy who changes my tires. All of those people are people we don't always think of when we think of our sphere of influence. Expand your sphere of influence and talk to people. Send them a little note. Says, hey, just thinking of you. Here's a hint. There's a thing called Facebook. Okay, it's got like a blue logo on it, and some people are on there. I don't know how many millions. It's actually over 1 billion. But if you have a bunch of friends on Facebook, every single day they post something personal about themselves. Like maybe it's their birthday, or it's if you go through the upcoming birthdays, maybe you'll look and see, and you'll see a friend who has an upcoming birthday. Take your pen out, write them a note, happy birthday, and shoot it in the mail so they get it a couple of days from now when it's their birthday. You can throw a business card in there or not, whatever you feel comfortable with. But the fact that you remembered their birthday really makes a difference. These are the kinds of things that top agents, top producers, they do day in, day out, week in and week out. And if you want to kickstart your business, start doing it. Get busy. and get to work. You'll be amazed at with if you do this now and consistently. Within about 6 weeks, you'll have more business than you know what to do with. So, any questions, Dom, today? No questions. I hope that where are we on time? 25 minutes. Wow, that was pretty good. I hope that we gave you some good information today. Good luck. Talk to people and get out there and do some business. See you next Monday.